Big hello to you, it's great to see you and I do hope that you are well. I'm Jenny Kirk, welcoming you up here to Weir Yard, and today we're going to be taking a look at the all-new J52 shunting locomotive that's just arrived in LNER livery from Hornby. This is a model that has been in Hornby's range in a previous incarnation for a very long time, and I actually remember these on the market probably going back to the early 1980s. But if you've been thinking, well, that old model scrubs up okay, it's not too bad, why do I need to upgrade? Then, well, you might want to watch today's video, because I think after you've seen the all-new tooled version that's come from Hornby, you'll have a very different view on that old, somewhat toy-like offering that's been in their range on and off for around 40 years. It's been long overdue for an upgrade, and that is exactly what Hornby has done. This is something that has been lovingly designed from the ground up, incorporating an awful lot of new innovations. There's also evidence that Hornby really do listen to feedback, and one of the big bugbears of mine on some of the newer Hornby models, including even as recently as the Black 5 model, was that Firebox flicker that on DCC is always on. There's no way of controlling it, and left me feeling, well, why, if you've got a 21-pin decoder with up to 6 lighting functions, is not one of them actually plugged into the Firebox flicker? Because real locomotives, you don't drive them about with the Firebox open. And if I sound like I'm getting a bit heated there, it's because this has been a bee in my bonnet for quite some time. But Hornby have listened, and it's great to see. So we've got full control of that Firebox flicker. And to boot, they've even done something special with the J52 HM7000 sound profile to really make the most of it. It's quite a heavy model too. I don't know what they're making these from, maybe depleted uranium or something, but they definitely pack a lot of weight, and that in turn hopefully transcribes into great pulling power. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. As we go through today's video, don't forget to hit that like button, consider sharing to social media, and if you've not already done so, then do please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. As always, it's free and it's a great way of showing your love for the channel and not missing out on future videos when they come. We've also got an affiliate link down below taking you to TMC, the model centre, where you can get all versions of the J52 coming from Hornby. They seem to have a staggered release, which is actually really good for your pocket. So at the moment, the LNER version has just come out, and I believe that the Great Northern Railway J13 will be the next to be released. But how well does it really fare? Does it actually have great haulage power based off that great amount of weight that Hornby have managed to fit in there? And are the assortment of new innovations something that really makes this model worth every penny of that $174.99 RRP? Come with me and we'll take a good look. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCT decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabriek.co.uk. We're proud to be supported by TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for new and used. Pre-order all forthcoming models with confidence, or check out the extensive listings of second-hand. Each model is checked by experts in the field to make sure you're getting the very best. With new models uploaded daily, there's always something new to find. You can also specify from their value weathering and renumbering service right through to bespoke graffiti to get exactly the model that you want. Get something special today by browsing at themodelcentre.com. The latest model released from Hornby are the Class J52s that we've been waiting for, actually quite excitedly. They showed off I think it was a pre-production decorated example, but actually fitted with HM7000 with a J52 sound profile at the Warnerly event last year. And I don't think many people realised that it was running with its own sound profile, but that has recently, in the last couple of weeks or so, been released on the HM7000 app, and that kind of heralded the arrival of these small shunting locomotives. There's 3 different versions that Hornby are offering. The original as J13 type in Great Northern Railway livery, the LNER J52, which is the example that they very kindly sent over for review that you see here, and then latterly the British Rail version in the BR Black. The LNER J52 has arrived this week, and I've had a check around, and it is available in stock in a number of retailers, including at TMC the Model Centre, and we've got a link down below taking you to TMC the Model Centre where this LNER J52 is showing in stock, and they've also got listings for the BR Black J52 and also the Great Northern Railway J13. Now, the classifications get a bit confusing because the J numbers that were used by the LNER don't match up with the J numbers for the classes that were used by the Great Northern Railway, but by and large you'll hear them mostly get referred to by the LNER classification that persists through into the BR period. What's really nice about these is they've been designed from the ground up to take HM7000 decoders, and you see here on the box we've got this on the front of the box, DCC ready, and it's really interesting. I've never seen a locomotive this small equipped with 21 pin sockets. Normally they're either 6 pin or next 18, or if you go further back 8 pins would sometimes creep in. But 21 pin really is a little bit unusual, but because these have been designed to accept these, there's no messing about. They'll just fit in. There's space being left for the power bank as well, which does mean that it's absolute doddle to convert this to any kind of DCC sound. There is a factory fitted speaker, but particularly the HM7000 system. It comes in the now standard, pretty heavy duty form factor boxes. You can see the catalogue number here, R30366, and this is as a number 4225, suitable for Era 3. And we've got some potted history of the locomotives in general, and this specific locomotive here on the side. The Great Northern Railway produced what they referred to as the J13 class in 1897 as a development of the J14, which outwardly look fairly similar except slightly smaller diameter boiler and lack of domes. They were designed by Patrick Stirling, and the new batch of locomotives were overseen by his successor Henry Ivett. A total of 85 were built between 1897 and 1909, spread across the Doncaster Works, and private contractors Robert Stevenson and Company did 10 examples, and Sharp Stewart and Company did 25. Upon passing to the LNER, they became the J52s, and I've a feeling that what were the Great Northern Railway J14s became the J51s, but they were then converted, rebuilt, and became a subclass of J52. And we're lucky enough that even though withdrawals of these locomotives began in 1936, the Second World War meant, with demand for steam locomotives and not really the materials to build brand new ones, the remaining locomotives were reprieved, and 132, I think it was, survived into BR ownership at nationalisation, with another example in departmental use. Although withdrawals did then start quite quickly from 1950, with the last example going in 1961, I think it was. So actually the last examples did hang on to give around 60 years of service, which is pretty good going. And one example has been preserved at the National Railway Museum in the National Collection, and I believe it's that example as the J13 that Hornby are offering in the original Great Northern Railway livery to match up with the livery that it has spent much time in preservation in. Now, my first impressions of this locomotive are it is incredibly heavy. There's a lot of weight gone into these, so despite the fact that Hornby have managed to equip it with a 21-pin socket and space for the stay alive, they haven't compromised on its weight. Now, the design of this saddle tank does mean that there's a lot of room inside these. They're small but stout. But there's nothing which is protruding into the cab. When you look into the cab, it's a little bit hard with these black satin finished liveries to really see a lot of the detail on camera. But looking into the cab, I can see that there's no compromise on internal space. There's a lot of room in there, and we've got the fully decorated cab back head, or the boiler back head on there. We've got the red reverse gear lever all picked out. We've got a lot of copper coloured pipework, and it looks like as well we've also got fully decorated gauges in there as well. I guess that's the handbrake wheel picked out in red there, very prominent in the cab. The cab roof doesn't actually come off, so there's no way of enjoying all of that. We've got moulded coal load. This does appear to be plastic insert. Actually, I can feel some movement. This does seem to be able to come out, but it is in there quite tightly. And then we've got these greedy bars around the coal space just to stop any stray coal from falling out and just to increase the capacity a little bit. They've got very distinctive cabs. The Great Northern Railway very much made the most of the loading gauge that they had. So we can see this almost flat top roof with these tight radius curves at the edges to make the very most of the loading gauge. It's a very distinctive look which is captured quite well. We've got flush fitting glazing. We've got these protective bars which actually appear to be moulded as part of the glazing. That's actually quite a clever idea. That actually works really well. I'm very impressed there. It means there's no separate pieces which would take a lot of effort and money to fit and also be prone to damage. So that is quite a nice touch. The cabside doors seem to be fixed in the closed position. It's going to make it just a little bit tricky to get crew into there if you want to go down that route, but actually that's probably how these mostly would run. We've got quite subtle rivet detail picked out, metal cab handrails applied either side, and then we've got this works plate which is very, very fine printing. And I can't actually read that on the viewfinder of the camera, but it does look really quite crisp and sharp. On the back, we've got a separately fitted metal lamp iron holders, and actually you do get a full complement of lamps in the extra detail pack, and more on those in a moment. Buffers are sprung, turned metal heads. There's a pleasing amount of spring, but not too much. We've got these self-centering camming mechanisms for the NEM pockets, factory fitted with slimline tension locks, but you can change these out for whatever you want. Now the rear one comes factory fitted, but the front one has a slightly different design. There's no camming mechanism. We do get the coupling to fit in the bag, but this is just on sort of springy tails in there. The brake rigging is factory fitted across the base here. There's no real need to add too much in the way of extra parts. We do have the brake standards, and these can be fitted regardless of the couplings, I believe. So it's something I am going to do in a moment. And then we've got non-fluted connecting rods. Got a joggle and a connection just there. And the wheels too, finished in this really quite nice satin verging on matte black, and the spokes and such like with the dishing does look really nice. We've got chassis detail with the Firebox represented in there, a lot of subtle riveting, and I can see there's a lot of metal gone into the construction. Brake blocks line up with the wheels, and it appears to be driven to the centermost axle with the rods picking up the slack to drive all 6 wheels. Now in terms of pickups, we've got wiper pickups playing just on the edge of the tyres, and as far as I can tell, all of them are on the backs of the wheels straight from the factory, which is nice to see. No adjustment required. Again, we've got this almost flat top. There is a radius on the top of the saddle tank, but it is captured really well. These do have a very unique look to them. The Great Northern Railway really did go for quite distinctive designs, which now makes them very attractive propositions for models. This running plate does feel to be made of die-cast metal. We've got quite a few separately fitted and coloured bits of pipework. These are picked out in a kind of copper-coloured paint. I think this is for the drain cocks, these bars that lead back to the cab. There's a bit of a bend back there. I don't know whether it's supposed to have the bend or not. It looks a bit wibbly wobbly, but I'm not sure whether that is as per the prototype. You can just make out the base of the boiler underneath there, and there is actually air room underneath. And then we've got picked out in red a representation of the motion, although naturally this isn't a functioning part. There's a lot of extra detail. We've got more of these metal lamp irons going around the front, some extra parts, metal handrails, and the smokebox dart does feel like it's a separately fitted metal part. The chimney itself really is nicely fitted in there. There's no gaps, there's no sign of parting lines, and when you look down it, we've got the requisite hole to nowhere. There's no sign of the bottom. It's well done, actually, I have to say. Across the top of the boiler, we've got the single water filler. That is a separately fitted part. Quite robust, but very, very fine detail. We've got the dome, and then we've got the safety valve bonnet and the whistle. Now, the whistle feels like it's a plastic part. It is correctly fitted in this kind of brassy, coppery colour, but it is protected by the front of the cab. So this all does seem quite robust. And then on the cab roof, we've got the rivet detail for what appears to be a hatch. Now, as far as I can tell, this hatch is a separately fitted part, but it doesn't appear to slide, unlike some of Hornby's earlier models. We've got another metal handrail up here on the top, and then we've got flush fitted glazing in the front. The actual printing on the saddle tank sides here, we've got the LNER and the number 4225 with this multi-pass drop shadowing going on here. So you can see we've got the main outline of the letters and numbers in this kind of golden yellow, but then the drop shadowing incorporates black, white and red that really gives this amazing sense of depth, and that is certainly incredibly well done. And then we've got what I'm guessing is a works plate on the side. I believe this was one of the Robert Stevenson and Hawthorne examples, and you can see all that printed on there. I don't normally mess about with the separately fitted detail parts, but in this instance I have to say that the design of the lamps really does look to be something quite ingenious. So I'm just going to try and focus in on that. These are correctly finished lamps. The lens itself is not coloured as far as I can tell, but we've got this hook on the back, and what this actually means is you can pose these lamps on the lamp irons at will, no glue required, and if you want to change them, that's actually a really simple yet effective method to move them across. You do need steady hands. I suspect for most people it will be a case of fit and then be happy. If you want to secure them a little bit better, a little dab of PVA should be more than enough. But I'm actually really impressed by that. I've never seen that before. Again, let's go with one up here on the front. I'll get shouted at in the comments for, oh, that's the wrong head code. There we go. Actually, that goes on remarkably well. They're a tight enough fit that they're not going to fall out with handling, but you don't actually need any glue. I'm very impressed with that. That is really quite special. And again, let's have a look at the vacuum standards. And I suspect that not all locomotives were vacuum fitted, which is probably why Hornby have left this for a user fitted part. That's going to need a little bit of PVA just to secure that in there. PVA allows it to be removed at a later date and it won't damage the paint finish, so just don't use super glue. on some of these extra parts.
Oh, it's all sticky!
Although actually, no, that's gone in quite nicely. So again, another big plus point, the separately fitted parts really do work well. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest loco.
One of the other features that Hornby really have listened to feedback on is the Firebox flicker. On some of the earlier locomotive models, they actually had this so it was always on and wired direct to the track, even when the locomotive was DCC fitted, which did seem to be a little bit of a wasted opportunity, and a lot of comments have been had about this. With the J52, they've made sure that the Firebox flicker now is on one of the auxiliary functions, and what is more, on the J52 sound profile, it's really been thoughtfully aligned with the F7 function for the coal shoveling. So you can see that once you install the J52 sound profile, everything is taken care of, including the flickering effect and the tying in with the sounds. Running on DC out of the box, this was silky smooth. It just didn't feel like it needed running in. It was that kind of smoothness. So when it comes to DCC fitting, it's actually remarkably easy to get inside these models. First of all, we've got two screws down here at the back, and we just need to undo those. Keep those safe. You'll then need to move from the crosshead to a flat head, and just very carefully unhitch this front bit of the factory fitted brake rigging, just to give you access to this very strange design of flathead screw. And this is actually what serves a double purpose of holding in the front coupling assembly. So it's just a little bit fiddly. It looks like it should be a crosshead, but believe me, a crosshead won't fit it, and that brings out this slightly larger screw, and then very carefully wiggle out the locomotive chassis from the body. Now I'm just going to show you inside here. There's actually plenty of space inside, a lot of die-cast construction. I also quite like these steps, are really quite robust. They feel like they're made of folded brass, really quite nicely done. And you can also see the little lens in there for the Firebox flicker that this model comes with. Now I've already gone ahead and I have fitted it with 21-pin HM7000 decoder, and I've also added in, just by nature of what I had to hand, one of the smaller, referred to as the tentacle DCC Concepts AE models, Stay Alives, and these are a direct plug-in. They use exactly the same plug, work in the same way, and just made sure the control board is there on top of the HM7000 decoder. If you use the Hornby power bank, again, the space is designed for it. It just fits straight in there, no messing about. You can also see the Firebox flicker just here on the back, and we get a good look of that really quite solid, weighty boiler bottom. We've got the motor inserted in there, and that's driving a gear tower neatly fitted away within what would be the locomotive's firebox. we don't actually have access into the cab, so fitting a crew is going to be a bit tricky, just warn you that now. But once we've got the 21 pin decoder fitted, make sure you line up on the locating pin, then tuck all the wires in, and then it's just simply a case of actually make sure you get this the right way round, and just very, very carefully slide this in. There is a factory fitted speaker, so keep hold of the speaker that comes with your HM7000 because that will come in useful for other projects, and you just use the one that comes with the model. I suspect it's exactly the same design. Just make sure that there's no trapped wires, relocate the chassis, and then it's just a reverse of what we did. We've got the screws at the back. Don't over tighten these, you don't need to go all Wayne's World air hammer with it and end up damaging your model. If you're chewing the screw heads, it means you're applying too much torque and you're just making things very hard either for yourself or the next person who has to gain access to the model for whatever reason. So just nice and gently. There we are. And again with the front, you may just need to relocate those tails, and again just all the way down. When you feel a bit of pressure against you, that's when you stop, don't keep going. And then it's off to the programming track. Out of the box there, DCC address number 3, change it to whatever you want. I've actually changed mine to 4225, and then we're ready to go. Once I've got the locomotive on the track, all of that weight that goes into these models means that these really are superb haulers. Despite the diminutive size, they have plenty of grip, and they tackled even some of the really long coal trains that I threw at it with no issues whatsoever. The short wheelbase also means that it'll get round all of the curves and twists of the weir yard layout, including the tortured test track. And really there's just no issues that I found in terms of its haulage power. One thing I did find though is without a stay alive or power bank, it did feel a little bit jittery on DCC, and it just felt that whilst they had designed in that space for a stay alive, it would be rude not to use it. I did have that AE stay alive to hand. I put it in, and that really did seem to solve any of that jitteriness over insulfrog points and poor rail joints. So I do recommend that you consider fitting that in addition to the HM7000 if you're going down that route. It really is a doddle to fit it all in. Everything else on the track really was pretty good. It's a silky smooth mechanism, and it just did everything that I threw at it with total perfection. So we turn now to the scores. First up is build quality, and by and large I thought that this was an exceptionally well put together model. All the parts are robust, and some very thoughtful decisions on material choices have made sure that this has gone through handling really quite well. The only areas where I might have a little bit of concern is the mechanism by which the front coupling attaches. That just felt to be a little bit delicate with the tiny tails that kept the front coupling pocket centered, and with it being incorporated with part of the getting the body on and off, it just felt to be a little bit strange. The other area were the sandpipes. Again, it's when you get the body on and off, these do seem to get entangled and suffered just a little bit during the process of DCC fitting, but it's a minor gripe, and I'm going to give it 9.9. Running quality, by and large, this locomotive is really good. As I said before, the immense amount of weight that Hornby have managed to put into this, coupled with the 6-coupled wheelbase, means that this really will be one of your sterling performers, pulling pretty much anything that you're going to throw at it. It got round all areas of weir yard, and the only thing which I would kind of put a little bit of a question mark against is that without the stay alive stroke power bank, it was very, very jittery, particularly when using the sound functions, and that in turn meant that I was forced to go back and fit a stay alive just to ensure that some of the poor track work here on weir yard didn't affect anything. But overall, I'm going to give it the 8.3. Now on DCC fitting and innovation, DCC fitting is actually quite easy, And the fact that they've designed in the space for what is actually a very large decoder. The 21-pin HM7000 is just slightly smaller than what I would consider the industry standard footprint of something like an ESU Locksound V5. And that space is just in there, despite the fact that they haven't compromised the adhesive weight. They've also included a factory-fitted speaker, so you don't have to worry about getting a speaker in there. They've also included for you that Firebox flicker that is keyed in with the auxiliary functions on the locomotive, and to boot they've got the bespoke J52 sound profile, which really does set that up perfectly for the end user. We've got space for the stay alive. That is something I never really seen designed into a locomotive before, but this locomotive has that, and it's specifically for that. But for me, the real standout are those lamps. Again, I've never seen it before, and they're just so simple yet effective. The fact that you can slide them on there, you don't need glue, so there's no risk of marring your model, and to boot you can swap them around, put different head codes on. That is something that I would have never have thought of, but now that it's been done on this model, I think it is a great idea, so I'm going to give it the full 10 out of 10. On accuracy and quality of finish, well, the model does really capture the look and feel of the J52 well. It's a very distinctive prototype, and with one preserved example, it's definitely something that you can readily go and check for yourselves. I like everything that they've put into this, although one thing I would say is that the fixed doors at the side of the cab and the fact that you can't get access in there easily once you take the body off does make it very difficult to get a crew into there, and it's something that I think a few people may find a little bit tricky. But again, we're kind of splitting hairs on this, and I'm going to give it a 9.5. When it comes to value for money, the RRP on this model is £174.99. Now, we've got an affiliate link down below taking you to TMC, the Model Centre, where you can get this model at a really reasonable discount of just a shade over £157 for all versions. And that includes the really quite ornate Great Northern Railway livery J13 example, where you don't pay any premium for that ornate livery application. I think, unfortunately, this is the new norm. Models are expensive. We've had a good deal for a very long time, but costs are rising. It's still a lot of locomotive for your money, and I'm going to give this a 7.9, giving a final score of 45.6. It's definitely a great addition to any locomotive fleet. And if you've been thinking up until now that you're perfectly happy with your old J52 from Hornby, think again. That is a child's toy compared to the quality of the locomotive that you see in this review. So there you have it. Actually, it's a really great update of an old classic from the Hornby range that has no hereditary to that ancient model that went onto their generic 060 one size fits every single model you can think of chassis. This really is something quite special in my book, and I really do like the innovation in terms of those lamps. I think are something that if you'd have just described it to me, then I probably wouldn't have been all that bothered. But to see them in the flesh, I think that Hornby have come up with a really great solution to not needing glue and actually being able to change the head code being used with the lamps on your models just whenever you want to. The lenses on these lamps are left blank, so you can just a tiny dab of either red or a kind of silvery white will be perfect to differentiate between the rear and the front lamps on your locomotive, and it's a really great solution to what have otherwise have been a very complex problem, and it's great to see that Hornby have actually tackled this and tackled it incredibly well. And thank you so much for listening and not putting the Firebox flicker permanently on wired to the track. That space inside the model too, where they've really thought about the DCC fitting, is a great change. So many models I've had over the years where DCC ready just means that there's a socket crammed in there with no thought whatsoever for where you're going to put the decoder, or if you're going to do a sound installation, where the speaker's going to go. And quite often, particularly on the small shunting locomotives, where they need them more than anything else, there just isn't the space for a stay alive. And here we have that space designed in from the ground up. So I was actually really quite pleased to see this model and to see how well it's been delivered. Now, we've got an affiliate link down below taking you to TMC, the Model Centre, where you don't have to pay the £174.99. In fact, all versions are at £157 and change. So do go and check those out if this is a must-have model for you. And I guess the elephant in the room is that Rapido Trains also announced their own version of the J52 around the same time. And as I've said time and time again, these models are in development for a good few years before they break cover. So it's perfectly possible for different companies to end up finding that they've passed the point of no return with developing a model before they learn about somebody else being in exactly the same position. So it's really good to see that Rapido and Hornby have made the best of the situation and agreed not to duplicate the identities of the locomotives. So there's still some great choice out there on the market. But I'd love to know what you guys think about it. Do leave a comment in the comment section down below. Is this a locomotive that you've got on order? Have you already received yours? Of course, they are already in the shops, and the LNER version at the time of filming is getting posted out to people who've got it on pre-order. So I'd love to hear from you. Do leave a comment. And of course, as always, if there's anything that you think that I've missed, then do let me know in the comments. It's a great way of keeping your fellow enthusiasts fully informed. But until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying you take great care of yourself. Happy modelling. Bye for now. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCT decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabriek.co.uk. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest loco.
We're proud to be supported by TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for new and used. Pre-order all forthcoming models with confidence, or check out the extensive listings of second-hand. Each model is checked by experts in the field to make sure you're getting the very best. With new models uploaded daily, there's always something new to find. You can also specify from their value weathering and renumbering service right through to bespoke graffiti to get exactly the model that you want. Get something special today by browsing at themodelcentre.com. I'd like to thank everybody over on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to our Patreon heroes. Without you guys over on Patreon, we really wouldn't be able to keep making the video content that you see on this channel. And don't forget that you can also head on over to patreon.com/JenniferKirk and check out the different tiers of rewards. Thank you so much. You are absolute legends.